What if I told you this dress wasn't designed? It was felt. I want you to begin by forgetting the idea that you are about to make a dress in the traditional sense, because what we are doing here is translating something invisible into something tangible, and that requires a different kind of attention, a different kind of patience. So before you even touch fabric, pause and ask yourself what emotion you want to explore. Not what style, not what trend, but what feeling sits somewhere unresolved inside you. Because abstract art always starts from that internal spark. And as I begin this process, I let that feeling guide my hands rather than a fixed plan. I gather materials not based on rules, but on instinct, fabrics that contrast each other. Something soft and fluid paired with something structured and resistant. Because tension is essential in abstraction. And as you watch closely, you will notice that I do not measure immediately. I do not sketch in precise lines. Instead, I drape the fabric directly onto the form, allowing gravity to participate, allowing the material to reveal its own tendencies. And this is where you must learn to observe rather than control, to respond rather than impose, because the fabric will tell you how it wants to move if you are willing to listen. And now, as the first layer settles, I begin to interrupt it. I pinch, twist, fold, and shift the fabric in ways that break symmetry, because symmetry often feels resolved and abstraction thrives in the unresolved. And I want you to notice how each decision creates a ripple effect, how one fold influences the next, how a sudden angle introduces a new direction. And this is why you must stay present, because this process cannot be rushed or pre-planned. It evolves moment by moment. And as the structure begins to emerge, I step back frequently. Not to judge whether it looks good, but to feel whether it communicates something. And if it feels too safe, too predictable, I push further. I distort the silhouette. I exaggerate proportions. Because in abstract design, exaggeration can reveal truth more clearly than accuracy. And now we move into color, which is not an afterthought but an integral part of the expression. And instead of carefully dyeing the fabric in uniform tones, I apply color directly and intuitively, letting it bleed, letting it overlap, sometimes even allowing it to clash, because emotion is rarely neat or harmonious. And I use different techniques here, brushing, pouring, even removing pigment in places to create contrast, because absence can be as powerful as presence. And as you experiment with this, I encourage you not to aim for perfection but for authenticity. Let the marks remain visible. Let the process show through, because those imperfections carry energy. They tell the story of how the piece came to life. And now, as the colors settle into the fabric, I begin integrating them with the structure, cutting into certain areas, layering others, creating depth and dimension. And this is where the dress starts to feel less like a flat surface and more like a living form. And I want you to think about how this piece will move, because an abstract dress is never static. It exists in motion. So I add elements that will respond to the body, loose panels that shift as the wearer walks, textured sections that catch light differently depending on the angle. And as I build these details, I keep returning to the original feeling that started this process, checking whether the piece still aligns with it or if it has evolved into something new. And if it has evolved, I follow that evolution rather than resisting it, because abstraction is about discovery as much as creation. And at this stage, you might feel uncertain. You might feel like the piece is incomplete or even chaotic. And that is a good sign, because it means you are not forcing it into a predetermined outcome. You are allowing it to become what it needs to be. And now I refine without over-polishing. I secure certain elements while leaving others intentionally raw. I adjust the balance without eliminating the tension, because that tension is what gives the piece its character. And as I near what could be considered a finished state, I remind myself that abstract work is never truly finished in a conventional sense. It simply reaches a point where it speaks clearly enough to stand on its own. And that is when you step back and listen, not with your ears but with your intuition. Does this piece evoke something? Does it invite curiosity? Does it hold complexity? And if the answer is yes, then you have achieved something meaningful. And now imagine this dress being worn, how it will interact with movement, how it will reveal different aspects of itself in different moments, how it will never be exactly the same twice. And that is the essence of what we are creating here. Not just a garment, but an experience, something that exists between art and fashion, between structure and emotion. And as you take this process into your own hands, remember that there is no single correct way to do this. The only requirement is honesty. Honesty in your choices, in your instincts, in your willingness to explore without fear of being wrong. Because abstract art does not reward perfection, it rewards authenticity. And as this journey comes to an end, I want you to carry that with you. The understanding that you are not limited to what has been done before, that you can create something entirely your own by trusting the process, by embracing uncertainty, and by allowing your work to reflect something real, something felt, something that cannot be easily explained but can be deeply experienced. And that is how you make an abstract art dress, not by following steps, but by following a feeling and giving it form.